So this is our run. This is my project that I'm working with right now. I'm going to take Auto Live off so that I can switch to something else and you guys can see what's going on here. So when we have a rendezvous project, first of all, let me bring up our rendezvous dashboard here. So from left to right here, I set this up so that my rendezvous participants will see the live output from the Wirecast show. And I set this up so that they can hear the live output from the Wirecast show. So the advantage of that is that if I have little sound effects like this comments little bubble thing, they can hear. Oh, now I need to bring up the screen share again. I have to remember to do that. They can hear that on their audio. Okay. And so this one is the one I wanted to talk about most though. So this is what I set up for me as the producer to hear what's coming through the rendezvous dashboard. So when I'm setting this up, oops, sorry, you guys can't see this, can you? Sorry. There you go. Now you can. Okay. So this is what I wanted to talk about is when I set this up with my guests in Rendezvous. I initially set this up to come in so that I'm hearing in my headphones here what they are saying. But be aware that when you're hearing them through the Rendezvous dashboard, that is different than what the live output is. And so if you're monitoring them in the Rendezvous dashboard, you may end up hearing an echo if you're also listening to your final output mix or your final mix. And so that actually is what was happening last week or last month when we did the show, is that, let me pull over my audio mixer here. So I was listening to Shane and Dawn through the Rendezvous audio mixer and they came in really hot. And so I went into the audio mixer here and I just reduced their levels a little bit, thinking that, or not realizing or not computing at the moment that I was sending a lower volume audio mix out through the final audio mix that I wasn't actually monitoring, because I was monitoring it through the Rendezvous dashboard. So just be aware of that, so what I do now is I send this Rendezvous dashboard out to a different output device. So this is a microphone that I'm actually not even monitoring, but I have their audio, Shane and Dawn's audio, coming into my project here, and I'm monitoring it through the final audio mix. So this is how I set up the audio. So I have an audio shot here on my bottom layer. Camera A is my camera that has my audio routed through it. So it's coming through camera and audio. And then as I add all of my participants, and obviously Julian's not here today, but I have him set up in this document. As I add all my participants into the Rendezvous dashboard, I add their shots into my audio shot and I disable their video. So Don is here, he's got audio only, no video. Same with Shane, audio, no video. So the advantage of that is that no matter what shot I switch to, I am always going to hear their audio. So this audio shot always stays live. And if you look here, I have Shane here as a shot, and I have his audio disabled on this shot. So I don't hear it duplicate. We don't get a duplicate audio there. One thing to mention is that for the audio shots, oops, let's go to Dawn, for example. Here, I keep this monitor on. So this allows me to monitor Dawn's audio from this shot in my final output mix. If I were to turn this off, then I wouldn't hear it in this mix. It would still be going out the final mix, but I wouldn't be hearing it. And so that's one of the potential confusion areas is if you are monitoring your audio in the Rendezvous dashboard here, if I were to be taking their audio through my headphones, then I would be hearing a duplicate because I'm also monitoring the final mix. And so this is what I did, is that I took them off, I turned off the monitor on the final mix for this so I didn't hear a duplicate audio and I wasn't hearing the final mix. So that is how I'm setting up my audio for this Rendezvous call. Another way to do this, and it's just a matter of preference, and I think that that's what's great about Wirecast is that you can set things up kind of the way that you want to set them up to your workflows. But another way of doing this, of course, is to put the audio on each shot. So for Shane's shot, for example, I could unmute that and then take this out of my camera audio. So now, anytime I switch to, if I were to do that, anytime I were to switch to Dawn, then Dawn's audio would be hot and Shane's audio would not. So that is a way of making sure that people don't talk over each other, for example. If you're sure that you're going to have people kind of talking independently and not, if for example, I don't get to this shot quick enough and Shane's talking as I have Dawn's shot up, then we wouldn't hear Shane until we get into this shot, and then the audio would be up here. So that's another potential way of setting up your audio. Either way, it's really up to you, Shane. Dawn, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think one of the things that might be important to key in on just for people to know like the difference between what you're monitoring, what you're hearing, and like kind of previewing in Wirecast versus what's going out in the output mix. They can be two separate things, and that I think might be where some people might be a little confused, but just know that it's so that you can preview and make sure that you have control over how things are sounding before you're outputting it to the world. And like you mentioned, Lynn, for different use cases, there's a ton of different ways you can do it, because we're doing this as like kind of a dynamic talk show style thing where we want more of the interplay between us. Having all of the audio on one layer makes a ton of sense. But if, for example, you're doing like a virtual event with a bunch of different speaking sessions and you want to have individual panelists who can present at their given times without worrying about any interruptions from anyone else, for example, that's where you would want to probably have just their video and their audio all on one shot, kind of married together, so that once their shot is live, their audio is live, their video is live. If they've got a screen share, for example, if they're coming in through Rendezvous with the new Rendezvous screen sharing functionality, all of that can be tied to their shot, so that way you don't have to worry about, switching video and audio at the same time kind of thing. So it all, like you said, depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what your use case is, and what the end goal of what you're trying to produce is. But Wirecast gives you those tools that you can do it however you want.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear from people. I know that there's probably lots of different ways that people use this, and I love, write in the comments, tell me how you're using it. I'd love to hear your different scenarios and your different routing systems. Okay.
Yeah, I think besides the audio stuff, I kind of hinted at it a little bit. The Rendezvous screen sharing, I think, is another really big thing that got added into 15.1, that whether it's for, tech demos or, walkthroughs or webinars or whatever, you've got a whole bunch of, remote production capabilities in Wirecast and in Rendezvous now that you maybe had to do a little mix and matching before and that kind of thing. So I think that's also a really exciting new feature in 15.1.
Right.
It's huge, because now that, it's not just a remote guest, you have remote presenters now.
Yep. And I can pull in a screen share from one of you guys independent of your video. And I could do picture-in-picture shots now. So those two different sources are independent of one another. So anyway, yeah. So that's all how we set up our Rendezvous audio. And again, love to hear how you guys are doing it. Let's go to our tips. All right, Shane, you got some tips for us?
Yeah, we actually kind of touched base on a few of those already. But, speaking of remote guests and bringing in people with 3 different cameras, lighting. Basically, if we think about this as amping up your production value, which would be usually visual and sound. So if it doesn't look good, or like I'm sitting in sunlight and lens in a perfectly balanced studio, it's going to look awkward. So lighting, if we think of number one as lighting, I'm stuck in an office right now with the available light, but also, you could get a little O light or something with soft light. But if you think about it, you don't want hard light. So something maybe a little diffused, which, you can get those on Amazon, anything to kind of up, the lighting. So mine's okay. If we look at lens lighting, that's perfectly balanced in the studio. But I think the person doing that job with natural light right now is Don. I believe he has some sort of curtain or something in front of him. And if he was to lean forward, I think he's going to be in full sunlight. So Don's doing a great job of using.
Oh.
I
I've
called
got windows.
Windows.
Perfect. With a curtain kind of diffusing that a little bit. So Don's doing the best right now, using his natural light with a curtain to kind of soften it. So, just double check your lighting. And if you're bringing in the remote guests, see if you can balance the lighting between all of your guests as well. So someone's not too hot and someone's not too, not lit at all. Number 2, microphones. If you're a walk and talk, if you're doing a presentation or a demo and you want to be hands-free, Don, again, is using a great kind of headset with like a mouthpiece. This way you're hands-free. You don't have to worry about a directional mic picking up your sound. You're free to move and and walk and talk. So of your mic choices, if you're a walk and talker, presentation, hands-on, and you don't want to pay attention to always talking in the direction of your mic, a headset is perfect. Otherwise, we could do, an external microphone, which has great pickup patterns, clarity, and all of that. But again, you have to pay attention to where the direction you're talking to. And also those mics pick up everything, like tapping on the desks, moving papers. You have to be, aware of that as well. So 2 and 3 together, choose the right mic for your production or your show. Rendezvous chat feature. Oh, back channel chat. Another thing that's kind of overlooked in Rendezvous is the chat feature. So, today's show, we usually do kind of a roundtable where we're all talking at the same time. But if you had more of a segmented show or tutorial or a lecture where you had people queued up at certain times, you could use the back channel chat in Rendezvous to say, Lynn, up in 5, countdown. You could communicate through there like, Lynn, I'm not seeing your screen share, or Dawn, lean back, you're in the sun. So a back channel chat, don't forget that you can talk behind the scenes of what the program out. And we touched base on the screen capture or the screen share on Rendezvous, which is huge. I don't know if anyone's ever tried it, but I used to send people 2 different Rendezvous links and have them join on 2 different browsers, one for their webcam, one for their presentation. So this is huge. Remote guests can now be remote presenters and handle their own content. So it's, the upper right-hand corner of the Rendezvous, you can now do a screen share. And like Lynn said, that gives her the opportunity to do a picture-in-picture, what I call a clean of the presentation or a clean of the guests. So Rendezvous definitely stepping it up there.
Yeah, and also just to add to that real quickly, one of the things about screen share that can be problematic is that you really need to have the detail. So when there's writing on the screen, you need to be able to see that. And so that's what we optimized for with this Rendezvous screen share, so that if there's writing or small writing, it will be pulled up and it'll be optimized in front of other graphical items.
Excellent. This kind of wraps up the tips for today. Lighting, sound, and kind of balanced video. And everybody, everything now is so easy you know, to get your hands on. Great camera, good sound, but you still have to pay attention to those details, because even that great camera, great sound might not be well lit, or you're like what happened to you. Don and I were coming in hot today, and Lynn had to turn down the volume.
That was
Yeah, I
last
think
time, but yeah.
Mhm.
I think what you're keying in on, Shane, that's really, I think valuable for people to keep in mind is that, yeah, you can go really fancy with all of these kind of tips and tricks we're giving you. You can get a whole bunch of fancy lights, fancy cameras, fancy microphones, all this stuff, or you can make do with what you've got on hand. Natural light, a set of wired, headphones with a built-in little microphone thing, like Shane and Lynn, yours, the little brick thing that you guys got on the side of your headsets, that works as a microphone as well. And finding ways to create content on the fly with the tools you have in front of you, as opposed to feeling like you've got to go out and get a bunch of stuff and do a whole bunch of prep work for a show, where you can just hit stream and start sharing your message to anyone.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, is just do it. We waited for a long time to do this, and actually we have some computer equipment in here that is pretty old that we're looking to replace, but we're making do with it right now, and it's working fine. And so I think it's more important to get this message out and get this show going than it was to kind of make sure that everything's perfect. When it comes to live production, I think especially now after this whole pandemic, I think people are willing to give you a little bit of a pass. Of course, we want to do the best production possible. And of course, people are used to seeing, these stream shows and broadcast shows that are really professional and great. But when you see something that's authentic and, people mess up and it happens, and I think that I, for one, anyway, as a viewer, I give people a pass a lot of times, and I just chalk it up to, hey, we're all human and we're all doing our best, and not everybody has $100,000 equipment, but we're making do with what we have.
Exactly. You gotta make the best out of what you got, especially these days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Shane. All right, we've got some questions, I think. Let's queue up our questions. And Don, do you have those handy, or should
I've got a couple that are coming in through the live chat. Yeah.
Okay.
Our star question asker from last month, Wilton Vargas, has a few questions here as well. So let's see here. While trying to stream to YouTube a 30p, YouTube interprets it as a 60p stream. Any suggestions on troubleshooting this? A simultaneous 30p RTMP stream to Facebook works as intended. So I don't know if that makes sense. Oh, you got it there.
Trying to stream to a YouTube a 30p production. Oh, Canvas and sources set it. Okay, so I think.
What about the preset to YouTube? So it sounds like from the front, his cameras are set to 30p.
That's
Canvas is 30p, but what about the preset to
yeah.
YouTube?
So let me share my screen real quick, and let's see if you see that. I will go to output settings. So what I think you're saying, Wilton, is you have everything set up in your document as 30p, but you have to make sure that your encoding is set also to whatever P30. So we have all of these encoding presets here for YouTube. So if you're using 1080p 60, then it's going to be doing 60 frames per second. So check on that. That is what I think is what might be going on.
And then it looks like Wilton had another question about NDI. Any updates regarding NDI 5.5 and the ability to choose the network card that Wirecast will use for it?
Yes, so we are getting NDI 5.5 into our next major release. Right now I'm scheduling that for, we'll have a beta in November, and release will be sometime after that. I don't want to necessarily set a date because you know how things can go. If we have something that comes up, we may delay it, so I don't want to promise anything. But we are shooting for a beta for that in November.
Awesome. And then it looks like Julian actually had a question from the airport. If you're bringing in a screen share via Rendezvous without the camera, does that source bring in audio too, or does the audio just come in with the camera?
No, it comes in as well. So you should be able to route that audio however you want. Because, and one thing to note too with the screen share is that because of bandwidth limitations, so we try and, how to say this, we try and stop you from stepping on your own toes when possible. So, you know, sending out two streams, a video stream and a screen share stream, can be high bandwidth, and it costs the producer basically another slot in Rendezvous 2. And so we only allow one Rendezvous guest at a time to be sharing both their screen and their video. So if you have a guest who's sharing both their screen and video, and somebody else, another guest, wants to share their screen, they'll be notified saying, oh, sorry, somebody else is already doing screen share and video. So they can choose to share their screen only, which is, we had that before as well. So share their screen only, or he can let the producer know, and the producer can tell the other guy, stop sharing your screen, go back to camera only, and let's let this guy. So there's still the ability for other people on the call to be sharing their screen, which would also share their audio, but only one person at a time can share both. Good question, Julian. What else we got?
We've got a question from Nicholas Stewart. Is there a way to send a Rendezvous guest as a direct output?
The only way to do that right now is through ISO recording. So we don't have a way to stream out per source or to send out per source at this time. So you would set up an ISO recording, and you'd have to do it as a shot. So I would set up a shot in my document. That would be, for example, if I wanted to set up Shane, then that would be my shot. And then I would go up into Replay ISO recording. I would configure, I would add ISO, and I would say shot, and I would choose Shane as my shot, and it would bring the audio and video in. And I could record that as an isolated, oh, sorry, I just realized I have it on auto live, so none of you saw that. This is what I have to, so I bring up ISO. Sorry.
We're back to Shane. There we go.
Yep, there we go. I'm gonna take it off auto live because every time I switch to another shot, it goes there. Okay, so there's Shane. I would configure ISO, add an ISO, and I would choose shot. Capture source doesn't work on Rendezvous sources. It only works on sources that are connected to your computer. So that's why we added shot ISO. And I would choose Shane, and I would add video and audio there. So yes, that would record an isolated feed of Shane with his audio, and it would just be a file recording. Let me send that live. But right now, yeah, like I said, we don't really have a way to send out an isolated shot or Rendezvous guest to a stream. What
All
else?
right.
Any other?
Yeah, Nicholas has another question. Are there plans to add Instagram as a destination?
It's always a good one.
Yeah, that comes up.
Well,
a
but
lot.
Facebook owns Instagram, and they separate the two. So IGTV, you can upload videos to, but you can't stream to Instagram from a desktop, only a mobile device. And that's per Facebook, because Facebook wants those two separated, streaming to Facebook and posting to Instagram. So Facebook's the ultimate decision maker on that one.
Now, that being said, you can use Wirecast to, pre-produce some of your video content for Instagram. You just don't necessarily have the ability to stream it out directly live, is what you're saying, right, Shane?
Right. You can upload up, what is it, up to a minute. Or it goes over a minute, it'll pre-play the minute and then it'll stop and ask if you want to keep viewing. So, you could upload pre-recorded content through Wirecast, but as to streaming live content, still not available.
Yeah, and we're keeping an eye on the API there that Instagram, Facebook, or Meta, whatever you want to call it, is. They're constantly working on it. So they recently came out with something where you can publish to Reels in Instagram, but that again is published video on demand. It's not live. But I'm keeping an eye on it. So if they open that up, then we will be on top of it. I know that there are some ways there's a couple of platforms I think that in the past you've been able to use to do that. The risk with that is that I have heard, and I don't have any firsthand knowledge with this, but I've heard that you could potentially be banned from the platform if you were to use these. So I don't necessarily recommend using that. They are trying to keep Instagram, as I understand it, as a very mobile-centric platform, and so that's why they have blocked it at this point, as far as I understand. Okay.
All right.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Yeah, I think we've got one final question from Wilton. He's been a Wirecast user since the days of the YouTube-only version. Back then, there were a lot of visual effects and filters, but they were removed later. With today's PCs, will they be back? And I think, we've got the new efficiency improvements in 15 that you mentioned, Lynn, and then we've also got the new powerful, gear units that are out on the market. I think with the combined performance of both of those, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm sure we might be seeing a return of some of those filters, right?
Yes, that's actually one of the feature requests that we are reviewing and doing some work on currently for the next release. So I actually don't recall what all the filters were, but certainly there was some, and I don't know that we'll be able to add them all in one go, but we're actively working on that right now. So that's exciting too.
Awesome. And I think, those are all of the. Oh, we got one more here from Duon Map.
Yep.
Is there a way to auto level the audio from multiple sources?
Oh, is my mic much lower than Shane's? It's probably because the mic is so far away from me up here. I'll sit closer. No, but that's what VST plugins are meant to help with. So you can add a plugin that kind of normalizes all your audio to the final mix, and so that's why. And I guess we don't have that on our production today, and maybe we should think about doing that. But check out VST3 plugins in 15.1. And that's what you should be able to do. Anything to add on that, Don?
Yeah, I mean, just from an audio nerd's perspective, there's a whole ton of cool things and, useful functions you can accomplish with these VST3 effects plugins. So whether you're putting it on an individual audio shot or a source or on your master output mix, you can use it to do a whole bunch of stuff from, making something sound fuller to, if you're coming in mono and you want to fill the stereo, audio field, there are some VST3 effect plugins that allow you to do that and convert mono into stereo or stereo into mono if you want to do it in the reverse. And then, you've got, things like compressor plugins where if someone's mic is popping a lot and you're getting a lot of, peaks and pops and that sort of thing, you can toss a compressor VST on top of it, really level the peak and get that audio to a much more normalized place. And then, you've also got kind of more standard stuff like EQ. If you've got someone whose mic has a lot of, extra background noise, white noise at the high end of the frequency spectrum, you can filter out some of those frequencies and clean up the audio a little bit that way. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of flexibility and power and control you have now that we can incorporate some of those VST3 effects plugins into your show. And yeah, like I said, the possibilities are really kind of, limitless at this point. And there's a ton of third-party VST3 effect providers out there, both free and paid for. So you can get your hands on a lot of really cool plugins and effects to really take your audio professional production quality up to a professional level.
Thanks. And I see one more question here from Nicholas Stewart. Let's see if I can add this.
Oh, I'm seeing it. Yep.
So how do you ingest comments from platforms that you are not streaming to directly from in Wirecast? So there's a couple different potential answers to that. So one of the things we added in, first of all, let's go over comments real quickly. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to take off AutoLive, share my screen. Take off AutoLive. Okay. And take off this comment. All right. And let me bring up our comments window. All right. So I've got my comment moderation window here. I'm streaming to YouTube right now. And so this is something that we added in 15.0 is comment moderation. So I can view these comments and then send them live through my social media title here. So Nicholas, your comments right here. As you can see, my active account is Wirecast. I'm not streaming to Facebook right now, but if I were, that would show up as well, and I would see all of those comments coming through Facebook as well as YouTube. And if I wanted to log into Twitter, I could do that as well. So those are the 3 platforms that we support today. If you are not streaming, so one of the things we added in 15.1 is that, for example, if I were not using the YouTube API destination and I just wanted to stream through RTMP, for example, or there are people who have setups where they're doing their production on one machine and they're sending that out to another machine, and that machine is doing the actual encoding, and so the production machine needs access to those comments. So there is a new little button here that we added in 15.1, which allows you to connect the production computer to the platform that you're streaming to, or the production you're streaming to. Or in YouTube, for example, we set up an event. So this is the event that we're streaming to. So I could connect to that from this machine, even if this machine is actually not doing the streaming. So that's an addition that we added in 15.1. Now, if you're talking about streaming to or getting comments from some other platform that you're not streaming to at all, we don't, other than Twitter, we don't really have the ability to do that. So it'd be great to hear what you're looking to do, and I'd like to understand what that workflow is. But at this point, we don't have plans to do that, and I'm not sure how we would do that.
I've seen people do a 2-up with a screen capture of the chat.
Yeah.
So it's literally a screen capture, and then they kind of do a 2-up or an overlay. But
I could
it's old school,
capture my
but it
comment
works.
Moderation window and show
There's no moderation.
But I think,
there's no moderation on that one. It's whatever the chat. Yeah. It's the old school way.
Exactly. Well, I think his question though was how do you ingest comments from platforms that you are not streaming to directly?
Yeah. So like, for example, how would he bring in comments from Instagram, for example, if he's not streaming to Instagram into a live stream that he's doing out to Facebook, for example?
Right. And so in that case, Twitter is one example where you can get comments in regarding something that's going on outside of, of a live stream. People can hashtag things, and you could search for that on Twitter and bring those into your stream. Instagram, I'm not sure how many people would be commenting on Instagram about a live stream that's happening on YouTube. I don't know what the use case is, so I'd have to understand that a little bit better.
All
All
right.
right. Anything else?
No, I think we can wrap things up here. I think the next episode or the next show of this will be October 26th. So mark that in your calendars for anyone who wants to tune in and watch that. We'll be announcing what the topic is in the coming weeks, and we hope to see you guys there. And we hope you
Thanks,
guys enjoy
everyone,
Wirecast
for-
15.1. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the show. And this is only our episode 2, so hopefully we'll get more of you to show up in future episodes as we get more momentum with this. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for hanging. It was fun.
Thanks, everybody.